I have people in my own family, children in particular, who were murdered and who have no voice, and I do.
Small personal items tell the story of an appalling part of history. One that Stephen Adler can't fully recall.
Stephen, this is a picture of you. You were sent to one of the kinder transports. How old were you in this picture?
8. I was 8 years old, and this is a picture from my passport.
But after more than 75 years, he doesn't need to. All he needs to remember is he was there.
The train with the kids on board and the parents.
It's heartbreaking.
You can just feel it.
You can. What those parents must feel like, what it must have felt like to be on the train. Wow.
And of course, even more difficult, the ones who couldn't get on the train.
Now 85, then 8-year-old Stephen Adler was one of the lucky few saved from the Holocaust through kinder transport. Between 1938 and 1940, the British government rescued thousands of refugee Jewish children to Great Britain from Nazi Germany. For years, Adler lived in England away from his family, only years later being reunited.
It took us a year and a half to get together again. My father had been in a concentration camp, and he was released, and he went next. So I went first. My father went next, and then my mother and brother came last.
But everyone got reunited.
The nuclear family got out.
That's incredible. All in London?
Unusual, very unusual. Most of the children that came out never saw their parents again.
Adler went on to become a PhD chemist and researcher.
That's a part of the Holocaust. Almost every family was affected, even the ones that were here.
Adler is just one of 200 local Holocaust survivors living in the Northwest, now sharing their story in our area's first Holocaust museum.
What we're trying to do is really tell their story, tell the story of the Holocaust through their eyes.
Executive Director Dee Simon has her own narrative.
My mother was a survivor, and she survived the concentration camp, but she never talked about it, and so I really didn't understand what it was. I began the journey of learning about her story, and as I did that and met other survivors, I learned their stories, and I fell in love with them.
For years, Simon has tirelessly fought to bring these stories to life, finally opening the multi-million-dollar Belltown Museum last fall.
This building, wow, it was a dream for decades. We started collecting artifacts 30 years ago, and we realized we had over 5,000 artifacts from local survivors, and you've seen some of them. They're very impactful, and they were sitting in storage. Really, we felt like they were doing the work for us if we could just really bring them out to a place where people could come and see them. We see stories of survivors who live in Seattle who were rescued by non-Jewish citizens.
The museum is named after Henry and Sandra Friedman. At great constant risk, Henry's rescuers hid him and his parents in a barn during the war.
Henry, who was rescued by the Simcheks, now lives on Mercer Island. So it really is part of our story, Seattle's story.
The museum takes visitors from pre-war Europe to post-war liberation.
This museum is set up like an arc to really illuminate the stages. And so students who come through here will understand that they really have the power in their everyday life to make a difference.
At the end of the presentation, children are asked, how does change begin with you? And they write their answers on these cards. And you can tell that they really are getting the entire day's message by some of their answers. Things like, I can give people a chance, and standing up for what is right, even if you're standing alone.
Visitors will see an exhibit that ties lessons of the Holocaust to contemporary issues and local perspectives, empowering students to speak out against injustice, in hopes of forever changing the story of hate.
In the end, we really talk about justice. Was justice served? We talk about complicity and letting students see that this all could have been stopped if enough people had done the right thing.
Watch CityStream Thursday nights at 7 on the Seattle channel, or get video on demand and podcasts anytime at seattlechannel.org.